Okay, we are live again.
Yes, for addendum episode. This is season 2, episode
18?
18-ish, maybe.
Maybe. We're,
Um,
g-
Jumping
we're
right in.
going back to our discussion, the never ending discussion. Apparently, there's a nugget in here somewhere that we just
There
have
is.
not
We're
found.
we're gonna find it.
Because we keep just going back and forth on this.
Debate.
Yeah, this debate of sorts. So we're just discussing the joy versus the discipline. That's just your second one, and I'm jealous that you have those. I
Spicy
might buy some
V8.
today. Maybe it might be my special treat. Spicy V8. Gosh. Okay, so we were discussing how to find the joy in editing, and
Well,
there was
first stemmed from to catch them up a little bit. The fact that joy and fun are not the same thing. Like I've always associated with what Joe is saying is, you know, find this fun in order to achieve your goals. And it's not necessarily fun, it is more of a joy aspect, first of all.
right. So for me, it's about having positive associations with your tasks, with the things that you want to do in your life, with your goals that are going to encourage you to pick up the pen or, pick up the brush or do whatever it is you need to do in order to get those things completed. Like, and then making it a part of your daily life. I think joy is so important. These positive associations, and then when you sit down, you get to feel this like sense of elation because you're doing something that you enjoy doing.
And I think that what I'm doing is very much the same thing. However, the difference is I think you are looking at almost each task as it needs to have its own type of joy or its own joy mechanism. And I'm looking at more of an overall job that I'm getting the joy from, because to me some of the aspects of the job are not as fun as others. I'm not going to be extracting a lot of this joy. I need to have a way of being joyful in the whole thing versus every part.
I would argue that no matter the task, and this is going to be some spiritual level bullcrap, so bear with me because there's no refuting it. So I understand that, and I do see that from my point of view. That no matter the task, it will require the person doing it to find the joy themselves, to figure out how to make it an enjoyable experience.
Well, can that joy though be also from getting done with it? I mean, I mean,
So, if you have to
put it
grit
that
your
way,
teeth and go through it, no, I don't
right?
consider that a enjoyable experience. And I think that's going to lead to negative associations with the overall task, which means it's going to be harder to pick up that pencil.
Well, it has been hard in the last few weeks to get through that editing phase. I've got to the point where I have my notes from the read through, but the actual editing and changing portion using that data that I've created has not happened yet. Um, I had no no plans for positive association that was going to happen tomorrow when I have slated to work on this. It was just, I'm going to grit my teeth and get through it and try to just be happy through it, try to enjoy the process as much as I can. Probably won't love it as much as, diving into some kind of like dreamlike state new novel chapter or something, but I'm going to try as best I can to get through it and not hate my life. Does that count?
I don't think so. I think.
Well, why can't that be enough, Joe?
And again, this is just I can't claim that this is a surefire way. To me, it makes logical sense that if you have positive associations with something, you're more likely to do it. If you enjoy it, if you find joy in it,
all right,
then you're going to do it more often.
What about before we started recording this? I said that as a writer, some of my jobs kind of suck in my mind. That could be me. There could be some editing freak out there. It's like editing, drooling as he's thinking about it. Okay, but for me, not necessarily so. So what I do is I take this circular approach to my job. I'm like, I'm a writer. I like being a writer. And I'm going to extract little tidbits of joy from the writer life. And that's going to carry me through the sustenance that I leech from the entire thing. Will be enough nutrients of joy to get me through this hard time, the famine of joy that I have to deal with that is editing.
So I get the idea, like, that you're like, oh, I'm a writer, getting the good, warm, fuzzy feelings from that writing thing. Like, I get that. Like, when I first picked up a brush and I started stroking onto the the canvas, I was like, I am painter. Watch me paint. It turned out like shit. But I don't think it's going to be... I think you need to figure out how to enjoy editing. You need to figure out what you can do to make editing fun. Like the editing process. Like there's a certain mindset that I think you can find.
How am I going to find it if I don't have some joy to want to do it, though? Did you say I need some kind of discipline? How am I ever going to edit, Joe, if I can't enjoy the process from the beginning?
I mean, you can probably grit your teeth through one time, or maybe even two or three. But it's not a long-term solution. I'm thinking long-term solutions. I'm not thinking like, oh, you'll never get a piece done if you don't enjoy it. I'm saying you'll get maybe a book out, maybe 2 books out. But if you don't enjoy it, if it's not something that you enjoy doing, then you're not going to do it.
Bad. How do I not say what I think is the obvious there? I mean, I've gotten books out. How am I not going to want to continue? Regardless of if I had to do a lot of crappy editing. I mean, man, wouldn't that be... That's like... Okay. To put it in perspective, you as an artist, draw something and you're done, right? You're finished. That's exciting, right? You've done a piece, right? Well, as a writer, finishing a piece and getting it out there is like the same as finishing a picture. So, man, how could I not want to continue even through the crappy stuff if I actually got a picture done? I mean, I don't see how that's possible.
And I could be wrong. Again, I do understand that my position is unarguable and it may not be practical. So this is just me pointing what I think to be logical. But again, I do understand that it may not be practical. So I just believe, and let me just re-summarize it so that way there's no question, that it's important to have positive associations with your short-term and long-term goals and the tasks that are associated with those in order for long-term goal completion. And overall, I think I would argue fulfillment in accomplishing those goals.
Well, one, maybe I should do a search on how to make editing fun. See what kind of things pop up. I wrote that down. I'm going to do that. Then, if I can't find anything, maybe I'll even make one.
There you go.
You know, like some kind of chintzy how to gamify editing thing. But
there you go.
Beyond that, what if, now, just bear with me, what if, how do I say this without insulting you? Okay. so, what if all along, I just know how to have more fun with my, like, I am more fun at my stuff. Like, I have more joy already. And so I don't have to look for that joy as much. Like, because, like, even this little molecule of joy, like, conceptually, like, ooh, I'm an editor because I'm a writer. Yeehaw! And then, whoop, a little molecule of joy. Bloop, that's enough to sustain me because I don't need as much joy as you do, who is a joy addict, who needs like infusions of joy in order to like say, what if that's the case? What if I don't need as much joy as you?
And I think people are going to need different levels of joy. So I would personally look at how much work you've got done recently and see if you have, and if it's not a whole lot, then maybe look towards the positive association or negative associations that you have with your work and see what you can do to change that. Because it's not about like every moment's a serotonin hit and you're just like injecting yourself with serotonin. It's about finding the joy and putting positive associations towards your tasks, making those feel like something you want to do versus something that you dread doing. Like, to me, it sounds like you dread the idea of editing. I think it's a really good idea to look up ways of trying to find ways to enjoy editing. And like I said, like you said, make up your own, like finding positive associations. Because it's, to me, it makes, and it's just like this most brain dead of conclusions. If you enjoy something, you do it. Like, have positive associations towards something, you're going to do it. And to me, that just, my concern with you, James, is I feel like you have a lot of negative associations with the things that you do. And I don't think that's good for long-term goal accomplishment, writing accomplishment.
Well, I, in general, have always been the kind of person that looks at the, you can call them negative sides, but I like to think of it as problems. I look at problems and I try to eliminate them. Um, and so getting to the point where I can write effectively, um, is and have that joy is like the byproduct of problem solving my way to that point. Um, at least that's what I think. Um, I have a lot of joy when it comes to thinking about getting my first piece out. So much, in fact, that I will even edit if I have to. so, so, um, the goal, the main goal for me is it has so much like positiveness attached to it, like that I think it's going to do for me. That that even the aspects that I don't know how to have fun with right now, I think I can get through them because of the goal itself is pulling me through. Now, if I want to look at my each week and go, oh well, like last week, did I do anything? The answer would be no. I didn't do jack. But if I want to look at this year, compare it to my last 15 and say how much have I gotten done on getting my first book out compared to any other year of my life? This is so crazy different. So now I just want to get more of those real work days in, you know, where I'm getting that major goal, done. And I think I have so much fun associated with that. So much. I mean, it's not even joy. It's like there's everything wrapped up on it. There's like it gets it's like that's what I want to do for a living. It's the goal itself, um, the accomplishment that I've wanted to do for so many like years. I mean, this is years of culminated like expectations and daydreams of what it would be like all that stuff wrapped up into getting to that point. And so I think that is beyond um, just like even if I had joy editing, like because I know I've got to edit it, I know I've got to get it done. I've slated that for tomorrow, um, on my day off, where I know I plenty of time and no excuses. Um, and it's the main goal of being the writer, of finishing that first book, that that for me, I think is going to carry me through it, um, to the end.
Yeah, I think we should keep revisiting this. I do think there is something to be said about having the main goal being your driving force, but I would caution against it being your only driving force
Mm.
because what is idealized, if you don't see yourself going in that direction, I feel like you could get derailed quickly. Or worn
Well, I
down
think
over
there would be
time.
reason to be derailed. I mean, if I don't actually put out a book,
Because there's this
I'd rather be playing a game. I'd rather be
there's this
watching a show.
if you have an idealized version of what a writer is, then
Which I do.
right, then you're calling yourself not a real writer.
Oh, well, I'm a fledgling writer.
You're a writer, James. Just because you haven't published anything yet doesn't mean you're not a writer.
Well, I would like to earn money as a writer. I guess that's my basic definition of a writer. You know, that's it.
All right, well, another little bonus episode here.
Does any of what I said sound like it's not going to work?
You're really, really pulling me in here, huh? All right. Really, really making me deep dive into it. Um, making me, making me critique. So with my concerns, so the concerns I've stated thus far are a looking at the idea that you're like your ideal writer, right? That's, I think, more of a fantasy than a reality, and I believe it to be detrimental because you are a writer and you need to figure out how to publish books. Because that's the things that stand between you and, like, that's the only thing that's standing between you and your career is how you get books published. Your life is still going to be the same. You're just going to also be publishing books. You're just going to have a lot of the same life problems, but you're just going to have writer ones on top of it. I think having an idealized version is a nice fantasy, but I don't think it's conducive to the reality of what's going to be. So, in conclusion, I think there is merit from drawing joy from the idea or the fantasy of being a writer, but it does have a couple of problems, which one, I think if you're looking at the perfect writer, you're not considering yourself a writer. Or there's this like disconnect between this idealized version of a writer and yourself, when each person is different and they're going to have different levels of writing, different output speeds depending on who they are. And two, I feel like, again, with the fantasy, hold on, there was the second point. I lost my second point. Never mind.
So, looking at the perfect writer, the fantasy version, and myself, well, I think that warrants me thinking for a moment about it.
Yeah, for sure.
The ideal version of a writer, to me, is the maximized version of myself. One can look at themselves and go, you know, what could I be if I was at my perfection, which is generally what I do. I'm not a single man. I'm not Leonardo da Vinci alone in his chambers all day. So I have a limited amount of time because I have to focus on things I have to do in my life and people in my life more than I could if I was alone in my chambers working on writing all day. I think I still want to be the maximized version of myself as much as I can. And I say that because I haven't done anything yet. You know, I haven't actually put out a piece. But I think what I don't explain well enough is that I may have this maximized potential that I'm trying to achieve, but I understand that if I can aim high and kind of, you know, get somewhere in there, it's going to be good enough as long as I achieve the minimum goal of producing books. So it can sound very joyless. You know, it can sound very extreme and too much on my plate and too many high expectations and all that. It doesn't necessarily mean at the heart of it that I will not be a success in my mind if I don't get to that peak. Because I understand that the minimum goal is actually the real goal. Producing and publishing works. The difference between the minimum and maximum version of myself is somebody who is supplementing their income as a part-time writer, still working, and somebody who is only writing, able to support all of my needs with writing, and being able to free up my time where writing is the only thing that I have to do for a living. That's the maximized version of it. And of course, that scale can go very high if you're very good at what you do. Now, what you said, how to publish books, I completely agree. It is going to still be me. And you're right. That is the main question. It isn't necessarily anything else. I haven't defined it as well as that, you know, in our conversations. I think that is what I've kind of alluded to, in that my main goal is to, you know, get, you know, I don't feel good unless I've accomplished my main goal, which is basically to get my first book out. And the closer I get to being somebody who can figure out how to publish that book in the midst of all the struggles that life has, is what I'm getting better at. I'm not amazing at it.
Neither am I. I get it.
But I'm getting better at it. And I feel like this pretend perfect writer that I'm trying to be, the maximized version writer, it's like this. It is pretend. It is because it's not me, but it is a dream. I guess you could call it that. It is a dream. It is a fantasy of who I could be, and if I somehow can become some part of that, then I can get to how do I publish books, and I can make somewhat of a dream possible.
And I'm not saying you shouldn't have those dreams. I think it's important, as like you said before, like guideposts on where you want to go, or maybe like a star that you're setting your sails to. But comparing yourself in an apples versus apples way is going to make you feel like you are never going to accomplish your goals because you're never going to be that perfect writer. And I feel like that's a negative association that I think is important to be aware of.
I think being aware of it is important. Yes. Need to keep myself in check to not be down on myself for not being perfect.
I think that's something you
Thankfully,
struggle with.
thankfully, I have you here to remind me every week.
You are welcome. That's one of the many services I provide.
I like how you worded that. You know, that I need to figure out how to publish books, you know, relative to my life. I have been doing it, but I did not say that yet to myself. It does help clarify it in my mind. It's like I knew what I was going for, but I didn't really look at it in that way yet. That is a more clarified version. I like it.
And again, like I'm boiling down like so much that it takes to just exist in the world, let alone also create and all that at the same time. So it's like it's
Yeah, but
very
you need it.
Yeah.
You need a condensed thought.
Yeah, and
Summary.
I am very much condensing.
Well, I'll figure out the rest, but I like the condensed. It almost makes it easier in my mind because it's like I've been looking at everything as the next task. Oh, I have to edit. Well, that sucks. That's not fun. I guess I'll have to grit my teeth and get through it. But looking at it from a bigger goal aspect, which is ironic, is the how do I publish books aspects, which is like not quite the next step, but it's like a summary of the steps, and yet it isn't my main goal and it's not my fantasy. It's a larger way of looking at the summary of the steps. That is helpful.
Taking a big picture approach to your long-term goals, which is just publish books, not a book, books. I think making it plural is important.
Yes, because that says it's going to be a repeatable process. And it isn't just each book is going to have its own struggles, its own different things associated with it, but as a repeatable process, yes, it is important. So I like where I'm thinking on that. Does any of this hit you as from your artist perspective for yourself?
Again, for me, it comes down to longevity, and I think the only way and this might just be a me personal thing. The only way for me to have longevity is to make it an enjoyable experience, make it part of my life. Like, you don't hear people like, oh yeah, I decided to pick up painting and then I become Picasso. It's, oh yeah, I paint pretty much every day of my life and that's how I became good at it. It's the people that their free time is spent doing these things because they enjoy them. It's their escape. Right now, video games is my escape. But I'd like to transition into drawing and that type of stuff to be my escape, to be my relaxation. And the only way to do that is to make it part of my life, to make it enjoyable, so it has longevity.
So you see yourself weaning from video games a little bit?
That's the intention. I mean, long-term intention. I think first is build habit, continue making it enjoyable, find the joy, that type of thing. I'm still going to play video games because that's how I connect with a lot of people that are important to me. But I'd like that to be more of the, eventually, to be more of the exception and not the rule.
I have played a lot less video games in the last month and a half. I have found some time to play video games, though. The majority of which was with my wife, because she's starting to play this little game, and so we sit on the couch and...
Which game?
Maybe I'll... Story of Seasons... something.
Harvest Moon?
No, I think it's a newer one or something. But, I think Story of Seasons is the secondary title. Maybe I'm
I think
wrong.
that's a Harvest Moon game.
I think it is.
Yeah. Harvest Moon, Story of Seasons.
Yeah, that's what she's playing, and so
Okay.
I started a file and I haven't played nearly as much as she has, but you know. So we're playing a little bit of that on the couch, you know, on like the Switch, not even playing it on the computer. And I played a little bit of that game that you showed me.
Nevergrind.
Yeah. Nevergrind.
Nevergrind Online.
But the amount of video game pull is less substantially. There's a little bit more pull to play the Harvest Moon game because my wife's so much more ahead that I feel like, you know, I need to catch up a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so there's that little bit of competition. But she's so far ahead that it's like, I'd have to play like an entire day. And that isn't exciting to me. So I'm trying to just not do that. So yeah, the video game pull has been less. And since I've been doing more like things that impact my life, Um, I do feel more accomplished, and I do feel like things are changing for the better. Um, but I realize there's so many things I have to do that sometimes it can be a little overwhelming. Just like walking around my house and realizing how many things I have to do, how much junk I have. I really want to get rid of some of it.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway,
You know what I recommend for the junk thing?
the junk thing is harder than what it sounds because they're like, it's like old personal videos that I've made that you go through and you decide what I want to keep and what I want to put on Blu-ray or something, and that takes a lot of time. It's a very small space, but it's like it could be a day's project for one video.
I heavily recommend The Joy of Tidying Up with Marie Kondo.
Yeah, I don't need any joy to realize I have to put my wedding on a stinking backup. It's like it's gonna happen. Don't need any joy to figure that out.
It's not about the joy of that. It's a different thing. But whatever.
Yeah.
I'm regressing. Yeah, I think it's important, and I'm just gonna keep going back to this until I believe otherwise. And it's important to be mindful of negative associations and lean towards positive associations with your goals. Just so that way it's easier to pick up the pen. And that's everybody. whatever your medium is. I like to draw in pen, so that's the reason I'm saying pen. Right now I'm drawing with these purple pens, purple Bics. They're not as good as I want them to be. See, here's the problem with them. Like, I'll close the lid, right? And then when I open it, it'll sometimes pull this thing out. I'll pull out the...
Yeah, I'm not the fan of the square-tipped covers. I like the little triangle ones.
Yeah, see, it'll pull out the... Yeah, I hate that. It feels not good.
Hopefully, if you have enough joy sessions, that you will be able
Don't make it weird, James.
define like some midterm goals and some long-term goals that can help you. I mean, from my perspective, I have there is some joy in those things. Like just having those goals is a joyful thing. And even though, there's a little bit of reaching for the stars there in the mind, maybe some of what you're lacking is are those reaching kind of definitions, and maybe daydream about the perfect writer life. Do you even know what the perfect writer or the perfect artist life would be for you? Like, if let's say you were independently wealthy all of a sudden, or no, you were required to do art, but you could live in your place and have food and do all that stuff, but this entity forced you to do art in a joyful manner each day. What would that be? What is that? What is that lifestyle? Have you thought about that kind of thing?
There's a few things that come to mind. Like, I want to travel and do art in different locations based on the location I'm at. Mix a bit of landscape with fantasy, like the landscape I see with some fantasy elements. I think that'd be a lot of fun.
Interesting. That does sound fun.
Yeah. making a like a visual journal of my travels. I would enjoy that.
And have you thought about how you could monetize any of that?
I'm sure there's ways. I mean, a
Yeah.
couple different ways, like the video process and how I did it would be a good one. Like a kind of like vlog of like where I'm at, what I'm doing, and then a video process of the art piece.
Mm.
And then maybe even if I'm doing one-offs, selling the visual art, the art piece.
Digital versions, maybe, of
No, selling the one-off.
just
And then
straight.
yeah, well, I'd have a video of it, so I wouldn't be like I'd never see it again.
Mm. Yeah, it would have to be pretty decently priced.
Yeah, it would
But
be. It'd fund my next one.
well, that's an interesting goal. I think that does sound fun and very cool.
Yeah.
And yeah, well, maybe some goal for you would be to actually go drive somewhere and do one of those.
Yeah.
You know?
Do some paint. I need a better easel. Keep your eye
Well,
open.
there's a thing called Amazon. You know, just
Yeah, but they're so
buy
expensive.
something. I know, Joe. Are you gonna go whittle it out of wood? I mean, what are you
I
gonna
might
do?
have to.
You
I might have to at this
buy
point.
it unless you're gonna whittle.
If I can fix a car, I can fix. If I can fix a car, I can fix an easel.
Craft one from sticks.
Did I tell you guys that I fixed my chair? Did I tell you, James?
No.
So it was the other night. I was speaking with my little humans, and I messed with my chair, and it freaking fell. Like the arm went down and wouldn't go back up.
Oh, that
Yeah.
thing's happening right now to me. Yeah.
Oh, well, I told my little humans, I was like, if I can fix a car, I can fix a chair. I pulled that little shit apart and I fixed it.
Look at you.
I am so handy.
You might as well be a mechanic, Joe.
Yeah. My wounds are almost healed from my hand being cut up from my car. From the one time
Nice.
I tried to fix it. Or I did fix it.
Yeah, I had that same armrest thing, and I determined that it's just going to be a lot easier to get out of my chair from this side.
I like that level of sad compromise that you have. Not, I need to see if I can fix this or maybe get a new chair. It's gonna be easier to.
You got to find the joy in everything, Joe.
I should. I really should.
Can we leave it at that?
Yeah. All right. Goodbye, everybody.